Hello everybody and welcome to another amazing video of DIY investing. For today's video, we're going to be talking about some of the recent news that is broken around Binance and the SEC. SEC has sued Binance and they are now having a resolution. Binance has been fined over $1.8 billion and we're going to be breaking down what it means for the market long term from here. This is such an important time for crypto because as we're now just breaking out, we're all wondering whether or not this is going to continue to maintain as we see a much bigger move upwards of $50,000. We're also going to be talking about one of the narratives that I think is going to see some of the most upside and most importantly, the most retail adoption long term. And this is where we're going to see some of those biggest gains when retail piles in for the people that are positioned early to this narrative. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, so as we're talking about the Binance SEC lawsuit, there is now resolution from that. Prosecutors say Binance agrees that the appropriate criminal fine for the exchange is nearly $1.8 billion and the exchange will pay it within 15 months of being sentenced. There's also news breaking that not only do they have to pay this fine, but the CEO, Changpeng Zhao, has to step down as the CEO in the process. So there's a lot of crazy stuff happening. As this is happening, Mike Alfred made this tweet that in my opinion really speaks volumes to exactly the scenario that is taking place. Now that CZ and Binance have been removed from the field, that's the CEO of Binance, the SEC can approve the spot ETF and BlackRock, Fidelity, Invesco, and other large players can take over. This is how the game is played. And in my opinion, it really speaks volumes to what is taking place inside the market. Binance and Changpeng Zhao have had the corner on crypto for a long time, pretty much ever since 2017 and 2018. When they really buckled down, they accumulated the majority of the market. They had a lot of that volume inside of the market, really the majority of it for the entirety of the cycles. We've seen a lot of FUD around Binance over this last year, as we've seen all of this talk about the lawsuit, as we've also seen people fearful about the FTX collapse. People were wondering whether Binance was solvent or not, and as they had all of these massive withdrawals over and over and over, they continue to hold up, but now that they have to pay this $1.8 billion fine, it's hard to say how much money they realistically have and how much this actually impacts them long term. Regardless, having their CEO that's been there from the beginning, Changpeng Zhao or CZ, stepping down, in my opinion, is a major blow, and most likely what this ends up being is the beginning of the end for Binance as that top of the hierarchy of crypto, and as we do see the investment banks and corporations start to take over from the real world. So as we're looking at all of this, guys, the charts are reflecting a little bit of volatility. We're seeing the market pull back today, but we don't have any sort of confirmation one way or another. It's hard for me to believe that we're going to end up seeing the market correct back down and give us just this perfect buy opportunity right back for a retest, but you never know. If that happens, guys, it's a great opportunity to get in the market. But don't be surprised if the market just keeps going up and outprices people in the process. I've talked a little bit about that, but I still think that that can happen. It's really hard to say what is going to happen with the market around what's taking place in Binance, but regardless, I think that the market is still, in technical terms, breaking out of this massive accumulation. We still have to look at it as such. We just made a new high. We know that this entire last move was just the one wave to begin a much bigger impulse, and that's all we really need to remember here. In the shorter time frames, Bitcoin, crypto are very bullish, and so even if we do see a little bit of a pullback back to those prior highs as a retest, look at it as a retest, look at it as an opportunity to get into the market at a better opportunity than you had before. So that's the crypto total market cap. Jumping in here at the altcoin total market cap, we're seeing pretty much the same thing. The only difference is they are still below resistance. They have yet to break out. We're seeing a pullback at this level with the Binance lawsuit and all of this news that's broken. And so seeing this happen, we don't have any confirmation yet. On the low end, we really could come back down and end up retesting this mid-range. But like I stated, it comes down to whether we see another correction back down to retest this or whether we don't. Because if we do see that correction, the altcoins are going to come back down to this mid-range point, which is basically 588 billion. And it would just look something like this, Maybe consolidate here for a little bit, before making that leg up. But regardless, that's what I'm going to be looking at big picture for the altcoins. At least if we can hold this support and continue on higher, we can talk about the potential of a breakout. But we don't really know. Like I stated, guys, if we come over here and look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin is getting pretty volatile in the shorter time frames, and we don't have any sort of confirmation one way or another. We're having all kinds of crazy price action inside of Bitcoin's price with the Binance news that's broken today. And so if we're looking at this, as of now, we've pretty much broken from the trend line that we were holding in the shorter time frames, and we're starting to see us pull back from that. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we came back down towards this main trend that we've kind of been holding throughout the entirety of this consolidation, do something like this. But in the bigger picture, guys, we talked about this in one of my prior videos. Don't be surprised if we come all the way down and flush this entire range and do some big fake out. You know, we could see this thing come all the way back down to the low end of this support. We could see it come back down to maybe 34,700, maybe a little bit higher. But regardless, it's important to understand that anytime we see Bitcoin just consistently trending like this, usually I've seen Bitcoin have these big shakeouts, kind of like what we saw right here, but one that would flush the entirety of this range. And I don't think that we should be caught off guard. If that's what happens in Bitcoin, that's when we're going to see this pull back all the way back down to retest these prior highs. Whether we're going to hold this support or not is determined around what Bitcoin does big picture. But that's where we're all looking with all of these. I mean, it's all centered around what's happening with Bitcoin. And right now with Bitcoin, we just have a lot of volatility, no real confirmation one way or another. The big thing on the 4-hour is we are below this trend line as support, so it's technically resistance. We're just going to have to see how the market continues to resolve this news, but that's what we're looking at big picture from here. Now, guys, let's talk about the narrative that I think is going to be the most fueled by retail, going to have some of the biggest gains inside of the entire market, and ultimately talking about why I believe that we're going to continue to see so much adoption in retail long term. Alrighty, guys, so here we are to talk about NFTs. NFTs, in my opinion, we're going to see the most retail adoption because NFTs are centered inside of the gaming economy. They're also just something that people in my generation, people, younger kids, even younger than me, are most definitely going to be interested in. The only difference is we're at a point where things are going digital, and a lot of people have a hard time understanding why anybody would be willing to pay the amount of money that people do for these digital collectibles. Some of them are collectibles, some of them are so much more. We've talked a little bit about what that means, but the thing I want to be breaking down is the biggest one of the NFT market is CryptoPunks. This is pretty much going to be the Bitcoin of the market. When we're looking at altcoins, we're always looking at what Bitcoin's doing, right? Because that's ultimately what's driving the value. When we're looking at what Bitcoin's doing, if Bitcoin's doing well, then our altcoins are probably going to be doing well as in the process. So we're always factoring in what the price of Bitcoin is as our global index for crypto because it was the first, because it's the most popular, it's got the most demand and support behind it. When we're talking about NFTs, you look for the biggest project. You look for the one that's like the high cap, the Bitcoin of the market. And that's CryptoPunks as far as NFTs go. And what I noticed when looking at the all-time graph of the CryptoPunks is that it looks exactly the same as the gold fractal from 1970 to the early 2000s before it went on its run, as well as the Bitcoin fractal that followed the same thing going into the 2018 bear market and beginning of 2019. The only difference between the two is Bitcoin went through a longer correction after it peaked at 14K here, and gold just kind of kept going. So we don't know 100% how we're going to go from here, but the thing I want you guys to remember is we are starting a brand new cycle. And so this is why I believe the NFTs are about to be taking off in a big way. When we're looking at this, we see the same price action, and what we're comparing it to is gold, because gold was the first to do this. Gold is the foundation of all of these assets, in my opinion. The market structure we see from gold is repeated across many asset classes, but I find it very interesting that the CryptoPunks are following this exact same setup. And Bitcoin already has done this setup as well. Now, looking at gold, it makes this top, this correction, and then we do this little double bottom formation. We get rejected, and then we kind of round out here before we make one more final capitulation, right? And that's what happened in Bitcoin in 2018. Same thing, this little double bottom, rejection, rejection, kind of start to round out before that final low sets in. And the CryptoPunks have done the exact same sort of setup. This correction, this little double bottom. This one made a lower low, but it's similar sort of a setup. Rejection, rejection, and then the same sort of rounded period. Same thing here for Bitcoin. That's what the CryptoPunks did for quite a few months before once again, this final sort of capitulation. And this is where we go into this rounded bottom formation. That's where we took this final lower low, and then we made this kind of inverse head and shoulder setup before in gold, the ETF got approved right there, and that's what sent it into a new bull market. For Bitcoin, you know, the ending of the futures contract ended exactly right there that opened right here. So that was why we started the brand new bull market then. It's all these different fundamental reasons. But now with CryptoPunks, you know, they're just going up because the rest of the market. I just find it interesting that they're doing this exact same sort of setup, and they're reversing in the exact same sort of ways. These things are valued at 55 Ethereum. If we're looking at the all-time graph of this stuff, potentially these things running into a brand new cycle, what if they go to 200 and maybe even 500 ETH? Potentially, if things just get really crazy. We know that we've only had one cycle, so that's just a one-wave impulse. If we're getting ready for a big picture wave 3 that is, historically speaking and based off of Elliott wave theory rules, the biggest, the most impulsive, then that means that this next cycle could very well be the most profitable one that we end up seeing. Now, I'm not saying that you have to spend 55 Ethereum, you know, instead of buy your house and pay off your house, you got to go buy one of these. What I'm telling you guys is that if the leader of the market is setting up in that sort of a way, it points to what all of the other NFTs are going to be doing. There's going to be a significant spotlight on digital collectibles. Now, one of my favorite NFT projects that we talked a lot about recently was Neo Tokyo. At the beginning, when I first bought mine, when it was worth 5.9 Ethereum, I really talked a lot about it because I knew that this was a project that was going to blow up. And this, in my opinion, perfectly speaks volumes to why we can see a lot of value come into NFT projects. Not all of them are going to be CryptoPunks. Not all of them are just these silly little collectibles that we pay a lot of money for, and that's all we do is hold them. A lot of the next ones that are going to take off in this current cycle are going to be ones that offer some sort of utility, and that's exactly why we're seeing Neo Tokyos taking off in such a big way. Now, when we're looking at Neo Tokyos, it's important to understand the value behind it. And the creator behind it, or at least the main creator, Alex Becker was somebody that I was watching way before he got into crypto, and I was watching him for marketing, more or less. That's what I was learning, and that's what he was creating over here with Hyros. That was his company at the time. And I remember watching his YouTube videos and really liking what he had to teach about and talking about, and more or less just learning about his marketing tactics as a whole. So as he was doing this, you know, a couple years later, he gets into crypto really heavy, and then he starts this project, Neo Tokyo. And more or less what it is it's an entire ecosystem. They have what's called their Citadel, which is a private Discord server, and you get access to creative minds inside of crypto. You have to own one of their citizens, which are the NFTs, and by owning it and staking it, you get different rewards as well. You get access to their launch pad, but inside of their Discord server, you're able to talk to all of these video game developers. Anybody that owns one of the NFTs gets access, and a lot of the people that are buying these NFTs are actually video game developers. If we come over here and look at the reason why the price and value has been going up so much and why they're worth 20 Ethereum today, we're looking over here and seeing all of the new video game developers that have actually joined. You guys got to keep in mind that there's only 1,600 of these spots available, and over 80% of those are being staked long term. So you only have a small amount to actually buy from, which is why we see the values skyrocketing. I'm not trying to shill you guys these necessarily. I'm trying to shill you guys what we can see as a potential in these, because I just talked with you guys, and these were sub $10,000 to get everything you needed to join. They're currently worth like $40,000. And so we're seeing all of these big time video game studios and developers joining. AVAX just recently joined. They're seeing a ton of these different companies and projects joining, all of these major developers and projects. It's just important to understand why NFTs are valuable. It's not just a collectible. It gives you access to different perks. By getting access and holding one of these, you actually get access to their launch pads. So we saw in the last cycle these launch pads, you know, some of the projects at launch doing anywhere from 10, 50, 100 plus X gains. And I do think that that's going to be a staple once again in this cycle. So by owning NFTs, you get access to certain perks like that. So as it's becoming cool again to come and actually get access to all of this stuff and become part of a niche society inside of Neo Tokyo, we're seeing the video game developers pile in, and that's why the price and value of these are skyrocketing. When I first talked about this, they were 5.9 Ethereum. It was pretty much all the way back over even before this chart, as I'm pretty sure when I bought it. And so when we're talking about all of this stuff, guys, it's important to understand how quickly the values of these things can go up because of limited supply and high demand. This one gets you access to a lot of perks. There's a lot of NFTs that do their own sort of stuff. You know, the Bored Apes, they blew up in value because they really adopted the metaverse. They had air airdrops. They had all of these different things to reward token holders, and they kind of laid the foundation for how NFT projects followed. Now, during the next cycle, like I said, I think utility will drive value, which is why we're seeing Neo Tokyo climbing so fast on the scale. I think that they're going to be worth 100 ETH as a floor, and you guys got to keep in mind that if these things are worth 100 ETH at the floor, and ETH is worth $10,000, that's $1 million to get in. We don't know how crazy these are going to get. We've only ever had one NFT cycle. And so that's why I continue to tell you guys that this will be the retail way. Retail will dive into NFTs, and these are all centered around gaming. That's also why Neo Tokyo is going to be so cool, is because they have an entire gaming studio developing around it too. So looking at all of these, you know, it's an important time to do research. I'm not necessarily trying to break them all down. If you want to get access to Neo Tokyo though, just for the sake of me talking about it all the time today, you guys can actually get an outer identity, and these are all breaking out too, but they're worth 1.5 ETH. They're worth significantly less. But you guys got to keep in mind that the all-time graph just went sideways forever, and the all-time high of this was 10. So you can still get access to a lot of the same perks by owning one of the outer identities, but they're significantly less price, right? You guys can actually get in a lot easier. So this is all stuff just to keep in mind, guys. Go check this stuff out. All of these NFTs are going to be solving different things. They're all going to be doing different things. Find one that does something that has utility, that rewards token holders, or at least NFT holders, that you can do stuff with, like, you know, Neo Tokyo, for example. You can stake it, you can earn yield, you also get access to their game, you get access to their launch pad, you get access to talking to video game developers and studios. Like, it's honestly just amazing the value that some of these have. So, big picture, check them out. This is stuff I think is going to continue to blow up, so I want to talk about it. With that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you found value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. If you guys ever want to see when I'm buying any of this stuff, at the very beginning of when I'm buying it, I bought the Neo Tokyo and made a signal in my group. We also bought the token associated with Neo Tokyo that's up over 3x. So if you guys want to ever get access to that, see what I'm talking about investment wise before I ever cover it on YouTube, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website. It's a one-time payment, lifetime access. Anything I'm doing in the market, you'll always have access to, whether I'm outside of crypto or, you know, whether I'm just doing NFT stuff. Even just crypto trading as a whole. You'll always have access to it, so check it out. Links in the description. Thank you all so much for the support. And with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.